What is up, players? It's Warboss Tail and Smug. Today we're going to be doing a breakdown of my recipe for spooky vampire skin. And this recipe is going to be used on this Prince Duvalle model. I spray primed him in Gray Seer, and the first color I'm going to be using is Wraithbone. We're only going to be talking about the skin in this video and my technique for using it. If you want to see the full how to paint a Prince Duvalle miniature video, then that's going to be coming out soon. But like I said, Wraithbone over all of the exposed skin areas. This creates a nice creamy white color, pale skin, perfect for the vampires and perfect for any kind of undead that is up and about when they really shouldn't be. Should be sleeping in the ground, bro. But we're going to be using this Wraithbone as a base. It goes really nicely over the Gray Seer undercoat. And once you let that dry for a little bit, you are, there's not actually that much surface area for this model, just the face, the arms, and the hands. Let that dry and then come on back with some Agrax Earthshade, and you're just going to be using this all over the exposed skin, but you want to make sure that it gets into all of the recesses. That's the small little dips in the biceps, all of the recesses in the face. You can see I'm also using it for the whole model. So a lot of models will take Agrax Earthshade over the entire thing, and that's totally fine. But if you're just focusing on the skin, then you want to make sure it doesn't pool in any of those recesses. You don't want a little pond or a little puddle of that Agrax Earthshade to dry, because then it's going to ruin and make you have to go back over it with the base color again. So thin it down and make sure you've got a fully loaded brush. But when you see those pooling puddles happening all over your model, then just wipe off your brush, make sure it's nice and dry, and then soak up that puddle so that you still get those natural deposits, the natural shading. But like I said, you don't want to over apply it, or else you're going to get too much of that puddling effect. It's a beautiful model to test this technique on, because Agrax Earthshade is also a great shade for red. If you're working on red colors such as the Bloodbound of Khorne, or World Eater, Space Marines, anything Blood Angels that is going to have red, is going to have a naturally dark brown shadows, which is essentially what Agrax Earthshade is. Now you have to let Agrax Earthshade dry at least overnight. Something like 8 hours, 10, 12, or else when you try to apply more paint, if it starts running and dragging over the model, it's going to mix with the paint that you're using. In this case, Rakarth Flesh, and we just do not want that to happen. So because this model also has some bone fang protrusions, you can see that I'm using some of that Rakarth Flesh. I overloaded my brush accidentally, and instead of wiping it off on my palette, I decided to just get rid of the excess right at the tip on the bone areas. Then when you're painting your skin, with any skin, but especially with dry, desiccated vampire skin that is like stretched out and should look very unhealthy, you want to make sure you go in the direction of the lines. So the arms, the biceps, the triceps, you can trace where those lines of the musculature are. You don't want to be going vertical up and down. You want to go along the lines of the bicep, along the lines of the fingers in this case. And next we're going to be going with Wraithbone. And I think I missed the part where I use Rakarth Flesh on the face. But with every highlight that I do in this tutorial, I basically have 2 or 3 different steps of highlighting after the wash. So we build back up with Rakarth Flesh, and now we're going with Wraithbone, which is just a step higher than Rakarth Flesh, but it also creates some very beautiful looking highlight lines. And with vampires, with Undead, where their skin should be dry and stretched, you can create some beautiful looking effects by thinning down your highlights and painting them to create the illusion that the skin is being pulled and stretched over the muscle. The skin itself should look dead. These vampires, I'm painting them to look like they're not healthy. They haven't been getting their daily quotient of blood intake, so their skin is going to start to look dry, not gray, not completely dead like a zombie's, but as a vampire, you want that beautiful rosy skin, and you're not going to get that if you miss your your daily blood sucking. And this is the way to create that effect, just natural steps up, painting those highlights. I think you're going to see that with my Wraithbone. I accidentally get a little bit of it into that forearm there. Oops, I made an oopsie doopsie. So fixing this on the spot, very easy. All you have to do is take a little bit of Agrax Earthshade and just apply it very selectively to the area that you over highlighted. Now it's easy to get caught up in the highlighting and to want to see that highlight color over the entire part of the model, but you don't want to do that. You want to only apply it so that it takes up a bit of the highlight that you did from before. So you don't want the Wraithbone to cover up the Rakarth flesh, and you don't want your subsequent colors to be covering completely the colors you did before. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to be applying very selective bits of Drakenhof Nightshade over the model, and I want to be focusing this into the recesses to create nice blue shadows in the biceps there, and down at the jawline right below his cheeks, between the fingers, and in between here his forearm, and down his tricep line in the back. This is going to create a nice looking blue shadow, like I said, a blue hint that is not going to be overwhelming and overpowering. And if you want, you can even do like I decided to go a little bit further with his face, put those shadows into his eyes and around his nose and down and up there by his hairline, just to create again that bluish tone. So once you've got that, it's not too much, but you still want to give it a couple of hours of drying time, and then we're going to be going back with the Wraithbone. It's about this time when I'm getting towards the end of the highlighting this dark skin that I want to start adding some white to the Wraithbone. So I decided to go with Army Painter's matte white paint. It's a terrific paint in a dropper bottle. I've never had luck with the Games Workshop white paint, but this matte white from Army Painter has been terrific. I'll put a link down below in the description if you'd like to get a bottle of it for yourself. You could also use, I think Vallejo has some terrific white paints. It's just the dropper bottles, I think, has so much to do with the paint not getting separated and not drying out. I'm not going to say anything more about that, but matte white from Army Painter. Like, I don't use a lot of Army Painter paints, but matte white is definitely one that I want to keep in my arsenal for any kind of highlighting like this. So yeah, I can tell I've already started to add some of it. This is not straight Wraithbone, so having it on a palette nearby where you can gradually add those white hints, those white paints to your Wraithbone is going to be a huge help. Now you want to brace your hands whenever you're doing this fine highlighting work, because you don't want any shakiness to get in the way of you selectively applying your highlights. So you get a good fine tip brush, and here you can see I'm showing it off. That's that matte white. We're adding just a drop of it to the palette, and then with the Wraithbone gradually mixing it. So you want to add just a little bit of it at the beginning, test it out, see how you like it, and then gradually add a little bit more. Do as many coats as it takes for you to get the level of consistency, the level of color that you want. And remember, always thin your paints down, especially when you're adding and combining paints on your palette. It's very easy to try to just do it off the hip, and you're gonna end up having the paint drying on the tip of your brush, and it's not gonna be good. So have your mixing medium, or sometimes I just use water from my water cup. Slowly add it to the most prominent areas. You're gonna notice that I don't use this highlight color all over the model. I really want to focus on just where the light is hitting to show the most extreme areas of the pale, stretched out skin. Look at that, it looks almost ghostly with the blue shades, the brown shading of the Agrax Earthshade, and now this extreme highlighting of the Wraithbone with the white added to it. It's just gonna look fantastic from a table's distance away. And like I said, I'm also gonna be coming out with an armor video. So if you wanna learn how to get this red armor with these beautiful orange highlights, it looks absolutely terrific. And of course, I'm using it on this vampire model, but it's also perfect for blood knights. Any model in your army that has red armor, I'm thinking Blood Knights because, you know, this is a Soul Blight Grave Lord miniature, and you've got your Blood Knights. You can also use them in 40k, like I said, for Blood Angels, World Eaters, anything that has flat armor plates with those hard edge highlights. You're gonna really love this tutorial. So look for that coming out. I just have to record the audio for it. And here we go, finishing up our Prince Duvalle model. I had a great time painting him. He's one of 4 characters you get in the Warhammer Underworlds Age of Sigmar box. Whew, that's a mouthful, called the Crimson Court. So if you're looking for this model on eBay or Amazon, or on the Games Workshop website, wherever, you have to make sure you look for the Crimson Court. I don't think they sell him by himself unless you get him from a bit seller. You might as well get him with all of his gang, all 4 vampires together. They're going to be releasing a Warhammer Underworlds starter box with some Stormcast Eternals and the Crimson Court as the villains. So there's never been a better time to learn how to paint your Crimson Court than right now. And you can do that as soon as my tutorial is coming out. Like I said, this is the Vampire Skin, Undead Skin tutorial. I've got one coming out for the red armor, then Prince Duvalle, the hour-long extravaganza where we take him from primer to battlefield ready. Is just a blast to paint, and then it makes such a great looking miniature. The pose is terrific with that sword out and then his arm up, and that golden and red armor is a beautiful model. I had such a fun time painting him, and I think you're going to enjoy watching the tutorial. Hey, get over to the Discord if you're not there already. There's an amazing community. Dave F is killing it with his summer painting challenge, posting like every single day. And we got a bunch of other people, Perry, Michael Matzi, a lot of people, Meteor Wolf, just joining in and painting up some great models. It's never been a better time in this 100+ degree weather heat than now. So paint some models and let's keep it going. Keep the hobby train going, guys. Thank you to my supporters, my patrons, Mr. Sprinkle, Mr. Secondaries, Play It Painted, Michael Matzi, Darth Torlin, Dicey Guy, and Pix. You guys are amazing. Thank you for supporting the studio. And thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button. Leave me a comment before you go. Let me know what you think of this video. And thank you so much for spending the time and hanging out. We'll see you in the next video. Latest, players!